the meeting to order, Sewer and Water Commission of Town of Walpole, Thursday, May 5th, 2022. On our agenda, the first item is abatements. If you gentlemen have seen the abatements, I guess we could sign those if you so choose and collect them.
Can I speak to those when you're finished on the abatements?
I think that we have 4 pages here.
I have a question on the 63 School Street. What is the issue there? The second line item, it has like $500 in the server and $577 in water.
This is an overestimating of the reading. It was probably, I suspect, a meter that was old and it's been a long time to get it replaced, similar to we had the last time.
No, but when it was detected, that's a question.
Well, what happened on this one, it was a difficulty in contacting the person to get access. They made 8 attempts to try it again. So every time they need to have a reading, they had to estimate it, and that's where those errors start to accrue. They finally get in and then to catch up.
How we contact them? Do you send them letter or is it just phone call?
I believe it's both. It's by telephone as well as
Letter.
And I think they also, you put cards, deliver cards
Exactly.
to the actual premises and put it on the door.
There's an orange card as a door hanger.
Okay.
So they'll make a phone call, they can write a letter, they can hang a card on the door, the client. And if they don't respond to that, then there's nothing we can do about changing the equipment out.
So we should, think about putting some fines on the people who are taking more time to respond to those notices. There are fines, in other towns when they don't respond to such notices.
I would suggest, since we will be having a rate hearing sometime in the near future, that we add that as an item and put it into our rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Just to continue discussion, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the abatements, and then if we got a second, we can discuss.
I want to speak to the abatements first.
Well, it is on the...
I'll second.
So now we have a topic on the agenda, that's moved and
Okay.
seconded.
Looking at the abatements, you'll see that many of them are for rebates on toilets and whatever. Recently, I was at big box store, actually about 3 of them because we're doing some work. I couldn't find any toilet or any appliance that wasn't the standards that we, are encouraging. So if you can't buy these things, why would we ever be given rebates for them? I don't understand that, because even if you had an old one and you said, I'm going to replace it, well, it's to your benefit to replace it without a rebate. So since we're trying to save pennies here, and we're under the gun with our rates, I think that we should discontinue the program of rebates. Therefore, I'm going to vote no on all the rebates that we just received, the request for those.
I would, just to counter that may be a good argument, and maybe you want to put that on a rate hearing, but the current rules are, and people acted based on those rules, so I would, suggest that we approve those, since they were something that people...
I understand that. However, it still doesn't make any sense, and I don't have to vote to approve it. So I'm not going to vote to approve something that doesn't make any sense. You want to wait till the rate hearing.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to wait till the rate hearing. I want to be proactive now.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 What's the motion?
Approve the abatements.
To approve.
Oh, no.
Okay, so it's 3-1. And we'll
Okay.
take that up at the rate
So
hearing.
we'll do it at the rate hearing.
Do we
It's
have
gone.
one...
Would you put that in the rate hearing
Got
also,
one that's
please?
signed,
Which is
John,
signed.
or...
Say that again?
It's the rebates.
All right.
Rebates.
Yeah. Toilet rebates.
Go
And
ahead.
What would you like to do?
that's just, we're going to discuss that for the,
Discussion.
for the rates. But that's all.
Okay. So we have minutes You have a set of minutes in front of you. Does everybody have those?
Yeah,
Okay. Is there any additions or corrections? This is for
quickly
April 11th.
looked them over, and they looked accurate to me, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of
May 11th,
May 11th,
April 11th,
or
excuse me.
April 11th.
Okay, second?
I need a little bit time because this was not given before. No, there's no comments, there are a
There's,
lot of comments which are edited out.
When you get it, you didn't do the last page, John. The
Oh,
short
all
page.
right, okay. So, all right, so was it moved to accept the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Aye.
No,
Opposed? One. Okay, 3-1.
Okay.
Okay. Going right along. Superintendent status report.
Okay, so, it was already mentioned before that the Leonard Road Sewer Station was being rehabilitated. Chandler Ave is also in progress.
was
They're
the
both
other
well
one?
underway. Leonard Road,
Oh.
I
They're
think at the
doing both
last
of them at
meeting.
once, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, they're both well underway. We're waiting for a new gas meter to be installed at Leonard Road. There's a new generator there, rather than a small accessory engine, which requires more fuel than the meter can handle that's there in place now. We've received a new sample schedule from Massdep. One of the things in that schedule that's changed is they have reduced our monitoring requirements for PFAS based on the results that they've received to date. They are reducing the Willis plant from quarterly sampling to annual sampling to be collected in October. This plant, the Delaney, was formerly a monthly sample collection. Now it will become quarterly.
And what's the current PFAS?
The last result for this plant was 10.6,
Okay.
so it is lower.
And what's the system?
In the system,
What's the total system? Yeah.
they don't measure it that way. What they do is they measure it from the point.
Okay, what's the highest well?
The highest well would be Washington 2 and Washington 3.
Yep, yeah.
They are both off right now.
Okay, they are being pumped to waste or,
They're not being pumped to waste, but they are off. One is being worked on, the other one is removed from service due to levels of PFAS and the concern.
okay, so they were, before you took them offline,
They were a little over 20.
okay. Okay, and I did send a notice out on that.
Yes.
You got that?
That's why we shut the well.
Okay, thank you.
Also, sticking with PFAS, the DEP notified us that they have instructed Parker Hannafin to monitor or sample their monitoring wells for PFAS. They have, I believe, until July 30th or so. Their LSP contacted us, and we provided them with all our PFAS data to date. So where it is right now is they're working on having those samples collected, and we will be part of that process and notified of the results.
All right, so there is obviously they must think there's some type of activity there that,
It wants investigation.
are you aware that they've put in a new septic system there, a huge one? Yeah, okay. They have, right against our watershed, just in case anybody.
Who's putting?
When they increased the size of their manufacturing facility,
Who?
they
Parker Hannafin, Meadow Bellows out on.
Meadow Bellows, yeah.
Okay.
They put in this very large on-site sewer system, which I went to the meeting in Sharon and they ignored me completely. But, you know, if they had been more cooperative, you know, that's, even though it's Sharon, there could have been a case to connect them to the MWRA. So, you know, because it's an industrial site. Right, I mean, it's right here and the septic system is right there. But they never really try to reach out to us or even tell us, basically, it's a rather large one. I'm trying to say it's 10,000 cubic feet or yards, it's big, anyway. Just to let you know, that's because you're stormwater commissioners, it's a good thing they're checking.
The thing to keep in mind about PFAS is it's very unpredictable. You can have Washington 2B have just over 20 parts per trillion, and Washington 2A, right next to it, is only at 5, you're within 50 feet. So the trigger for them looking at Parker Hannafin was the results at Washington 3. And yet it skips over Washington 6, which is closer, and where you had the TCE. But it is being actively investigated, and DEP is involving us.
That's good to hear.
What's the plan for summer? Like, do we see any problem coming up in summer?
With summer?
Yeah.
So as far as meeting the system demand,
Yeah, demand wise, yeah.
right now we don't.
Okay.
That's something that naturally we monitor all the time. And if we start to see things going that way, it may trigger a more strict water management policy.
Which is fine, but
Right.
do we have any other plan to get more water from, let's say, MWRA or something?
No, that's not something that happens overnight.
Okay,
That's not an option at the moment.
okay.
Well, Scott, I think it's also, if we become, kind of desperate, you should probably contact the commissioners, and maybe we can get the MWRA on some type of basis to provide us with enough water to make up our shortfall by turning off 3.
If we reach the point where we get into that predicament, the commission will naturally be involved in what's going on with the department.
Because they're anxious, as you know, to sell some of their water, even though we'd have to pay wheeling charges and et cetera, at least we'd have the water for the time being.
The MWA does have two policies for temporary emergency connections, both a 30 and a day and a...
These aren't truly emergencies, you know what I mean?
No,
These are just to make our life more comfortable.
yeah,
And in the old days, they wouldn't even cotton to that.
yeah.
But
Well, the first thing we'd have to do is impose stricter restrictions on our community first before we try to get additional water in.
Well, could I ask on the wells you've shut down, is there the intent just to keep them shut down at the present time while the measurements are high, or is there a plan to mitigate them in some fashion to get the future measurement down?
The plan is to shut them off right now to keep them from coming to the blend of the plant.
Yep.
And they're not gonna be deactivated permanently. It's just the first step in following up to try to get an idea of what's going on with that particular well. On another matter, I had left a meter test record for 14 Canvasback Way. That's in response to the commissioner's request that the meter be tested, which our department did, and the meter was found to be accurate, well within standards. 100% on the lowest flow, 100% on the medium range flow, and 99% on the highest rate flow. You're allowed 2%.
This is also the case where it took 6 months to replace the...
We had an issue getting into the property again.
Okay.
That happens frequently, where if we don't have access, then we can't change the meter. And up to you.
What was the big reason of, the estimate being wrong by $500? Let's say.
It's an accumulation of estimates. It's not one estimate.
Okay.
So if they're a little bit high on this one, a little bit high on the next one, a little bit high, that all adds up. It can happen the other way too. If they're a little bit low, then they get the sticker shock when the meter's replaced and they have to pay for what they used. So it happens in both directions.
Yeah, I was just checking all those numbers. I'm guessing it's like $100 a month on particular meter. If my meter is going, it will be off by $100 a month.
Well, they do look at past consumption to make their estimates.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Like, they're going to check my last 1 year of use, and then they're going to charge. But last 1 year back, the rates were different. The rates were lower, so it will show up. So that's one of the reasons we should look into this scenarios where the more it takes, the more we'll be off from the estimate will be wrong. The meter, this kind of issues, the customer will complain. They'll complain more, oh, why it's now $500 off, and we have to give rebate anyway, so that's a problem.
In the past that we have, when we've had to go back, we have used prior rates, as most of the time, it's a short period of time, it's in the same rating period, but I seem to recall that on larger periods of time, we have gone back and looked and say, okay, the rates were back at that point, okay, in the next period that was at a different rate, and to attempt to come up with as best an estimate as we can. Munis does, if you're estimating, will give you an estimate, and it tries to look at an equivalent period of the year. However, if you happen, for whatever reason, you got a kiddie's pool and you fill it up, well, that's the one we use, and they, it'd be hard to know, be able to detect that sort of thing. In the end, we do catch it.
Yeah, I know we made a policy that it was 3 years.
Yeah.
That was where, because some of them would go back, forever. But we had to make something, so we said 3 years. And like he says, if you're filling up pools during that 3-year time period, you might wind up, but generally it should work out.
Yeah.
So the last thing I have on my status report is, in response to a question you had, Pradeep, about mobile apps, billing, access, that type of notice. You'd ask for the possibility of a demonstration, and I was speaking with somebody at one company, not the two that you pointed out in your email, but that is an ongoing investigation into what we have for options.
Okay, yeah, just look for the options, because now every town is giving those options.
Right.
So whatever you feel is good, which can work with our systems. Most of them will work, but I'm just, what you comfortable with, it will be more suitable. Yeah.
And that's why
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, then, the next thing was policy review. We had an email from the town administrator, April 28th, in which he pointed out a reference to the clerical position for the Sewer and Water Commission. He needs to know if we would like to review and approve the attached job posting. Does anyone want to review resumes or conduct the interviews? His office is willing to post the position, conduct the interviews as they have in the past, fill the position. So I think that's kind of up to the commission. He did include a abbreviated job description. Previously, he had sent one out, it was like 4 pages, extremely detailed. And
Johnny, if you see the link down the bottom, it probably gets into that.
In the past, for trying to fill positions, and we did it when we looked at the board secretary before, usually the administration, assuming that they got a dozen resumes, would say, all right, let's pick 5 or whatever. I'm just suggesting that if we wish to have them look and narrow it down to a certain number of candidates who meet the requirements.
I think we should see all the resumes.
I don't have a
If it's
problem
gonna be
with that.
ours,
I'm just suggesting that's what we had done
It doesn't have to go
before.
20 more filters then.
Okay.
How many hours is it gonna be, Scott?
I don't recall for
It
some
says
exact number.
12 hours per week.
How many?
12 hours per week.
It is.
12 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Frank is right, it's 12 hours a week, that's in the
Okay,
posting itself.
12 hours per week. We're not gonna get a lot of applicants on this. And we're gonna get a certain, either somebody who's retired, I would assume, or somebody who only wants to work 12 hours a week. We don't even know how we're gonna split that up, which we'll have to decide, the commission will have to decide if that's gonna be, 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week, whatever. And where are we now in that process? Has this been put out to,
No, I think the town administrator is looking for a vote from the board,
well,
seeking guidance on how you want to handle it, whether,
well, I think it should be put out in, we don't have really a newspaper, we have that advertisement sheet, that I guess is the best thing we have. And it should say, there's an opening for our board secretary with the Stormwater Commission. The hours are, it's 12 hours a week. Basically, that's it. And if,
Other positions are being advertised in the Hometown Weekly as well as for bids on various projects and notices, so
Sure.
it is the only place to go these days, so.
and it should tell, it's 12 hours a week, and I don't think there's any benefits, right?
not on the part-time.
Right. So it should say that, or,
Well,
Well,
I
they
mean,
should-
did you review, is this
I read-
satisfactory, the description they
Well-
put here for the advertisement?
I didn't go over it that carefully.
All right, do we want them to, we have like 2 or 3 personnel professionals in town hall, so
Yes.
do you want them to, I would assume it makes sense to have them capture and advertise for the position and get candidates and get resumes?
Sure.
So you want to go that far, and then the commission, maybe you and your subcommittee of yourself and whoever, can decide how to proceed from there, how to review the resumes and how many people you want to interview.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
But before they put out the advertisement, it should come to the chairman to look at it. And if that's approved by the chairman, then it should go out. Everything should come to the commission
Well,
first.
it's right here.
It is there.
Yeah, we already have it.
That's what you're proposing?
No, they're proposing.
They are
And
proposing.
do you
The
think
personnel,
that's?
yeah, I'm not a personnel specialist, I have to rely on
Let
the
me see
people.
that one, I
They have
left my-
master's degrees in personnel, human resources, so I'm gonna rely on
You
them.
make a motion, I'll second it.
Wait a second. Sure, if we can get them, we might have to change that description at some point in the future, but yeah, I'll go with that.
All right, so we have a motion to agree with the proposed job description and posting procedures that will be performed by the Personnel Department of the Town of Walpole, and we'll ask them to advertise and get resumes, and at that point, notify the commission and give us the opportunity to review those resumes. Anybody want to second that?
Second, yeah.
Okay, it's motion second.
But just for clarification, are you looking for free interviews by administration, or you want to do all?
We want the
interviews?
resumes.
You want all the resumes,
We'll pick the interviews,
and you want to pick who to interview?
yeah.
Okay, and you want this advertised the way it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, I moved in second. Anybody, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's a 4-0. We can take care of that. Okay. Now, we definitely have to discuss the town meeting articles, but first, we have down here the capital list that the town administrator had also sent over to us on the April 28th memo. ARPA funding request. And Patrick has been discussing this a little bit. It's an extensive list of capital projects covering many years of possibility. And I think that most of them are supposedly in the 5-year capital plan. I think if I recall, Bill, when we did the capital budget for decades, that the capital plan had everything but the kitchen sink in it. They threw it all in there, and, just in case something fails, we're gonna have it in there on the schedule. So that doesn't mean all these things are gonna be needed, I think, as Scott would point out. And some of them are more distant into the future as replacement and good maintenance possibilities. And others are more critical and possibly immediately requiring some attention. So I think, you know, again, I think we should have, I don't know who would be interested in that. I was thinking that, I had a little sheet here.
So
I'd like to,
you're saying we should have a subcommittee
Yeah.
to present to the full board?
Yeah, what I was thinking, now, here it is.
There are three items, main items which are proposed.
Yeah, actually, I've got 4 items here that I think we could, but this ARPA's definitely one. ARPA, the meter and the billing project, the secretary project, and contacting the MWRA about a meeting and a presentation. There's like 4 things here. So, I don't know, on ARPA, who,
I have some suggestions
Yep.
that I've passed by Rick and Scott for their thoughts. One is to clean the raw water lines from the wells to the treatment plant. They haven't been cleaned in a long time, and the electricity as well as the chemicals are by far our biggest. Electricity alone is about 1/3 of our operating expenses, and cleaner pipes will mean that less electricity will be used to get the water out of the well and into the treatment plant. So that one, I think, is definitely something we should consider.
is that on the list?
Hydraulic cleaning of
Yes.
water transfer.
Which one is that?
The very first one, the ARPA.
The,
This is
the,
hydraulic cleaning of the raw water treatment lines.
What's the
Before-
percent of
before this.
occlusion?
Excuse me?
Oh, up
What's
here.
the percent
Oh, yeah,
of
okay.
occlusion in the
Oh,
lower
it
level line
varies depending on
speeds?
which pipe you're in. Some of these pipes start out at 10 inch and they're going down, and the other ones that are 16 inch, they're not down as much, so it depends on what section you're in.
Okay.
and Which well.
Basically, how much, what's the occlusion rate
I don't have.
overall?
what are we getting out of Minebrook 5?
Very little.
Very little as in how much?
Yeah.
How many gallons per,
Like, right now, about less than 100.
less than
So,
100, something
that's
that
the
should
worst.
be able to produce around 300 gallons?
Exactly. In
Yeah.
addition to what you were saying about electricity and reduced chemical costs, you have the increased capacity, where right now you have a restriction on the pipeline
Yeah.
that's keeping the water, it's a physical barrier keeping the water from getting to the plant.
Even with the TCE in it, they're not staying
No,
clean?
Minebrook,
No, TCE
Minebrook
is
5.
option 6.
It's a joke.
We can contaminate that.
It was a joke, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. It was
The
a joke.
second one would be a redundant water line to the 2 central pressure zone tanks. Right now, we only have a single feed, and if we lose that, we have a big problem. And that one is listed, I think it's water main construction central thing for $1 million. The hydraulic cleaning, did we have that number somewhere? Anyways,
Hydraulic cleaning is 1.1 million.
yeah. The other one that had been talked about, and I think it was on either Rick or Scott's, was extending the sewer on Industrial Production Road. There was a spill with fish chemical back there quite a number of years ago, you may remember, Pat. My concern about that is I might be interested in doing it if it generated enough additional property tax to make it worthwhile. In other words, to upgrade the attractiveness of that industrial park. John, you and I briefly discussed it. I think your thought was that it probably wouldn't make any big difference. I certainly don't know about that, but for some reason, Rick, or it was either yours or Scott, who thought it would be worthwhile considering for a sewer project.
Yeah, we had a number of proposals to extend sewer over there. There are many reasons why different segments of the community did and didn't want that to happen. But essentially, the area has been now developed with businesses, the type of businesses that don't really need the sewer, so to speak. The solar park is committed there for 25 years plus a 10-year extension, so that's going to be there for 35 years. Most of the other facilities are on the production road side are storage places. You know, the Mayflower Moving Company and storage and reconstruction facilities for vans and for different types of trucks and delivery vehicles, et cetera. So there is some sewer that was brought into the back of the park on the DeSangro side and brought up the street. And I'm not sure of all the nuances of why that wouldn't have been extended if somebody really wanted to put a grinder pump or really wanted to have sewer bathrooms, why they couldn't have worked out something to do that. But apparently there's no real demand. And I think when the solar park is like 26 or 28 acres, it's a big chunk of the park. It takes the whole corner up. So I don't know. I would just say if something, at one time a hotel was proposed there, and another time a transshipment point for rail. Actually, I think it was it was an energy plant that was proposed there.
There wasn't going to be a peaking plant, but I think it was off of South Street, where there's a substation for the electrical system there. I don't think it was at that area.
And then there was a transfer station on the railroad that Mr. Viano had that we're gonna take garbage containers or something and load them off and on the rail. People didn't want that. There was a hotel request, and they didn't want a hotel in there. So there's been a lot of rejection of different, when I was in the Economic Development Commission, of proposals to upscale that to, something where you'd envision you might need sewer. If someone comes along with a significant enough project and can acquire those properties away from the current users, I mean, I'm sure something could be worked out if they participate in an economic partnership of some form, so that they're paying a good piece of that pie and the town's got tax revenues that justify helping them. But I wouldn't put that as I would just say myself personally, I wouldn't put that as a priority compared to these other projects that are sort of low-hanging fruit at this time that in our operating system.
One last item is I'm not sure, I think everybody got this. It was a letter from Brian Bain. He's up in North Walpole.
You're thinking ARPA funds for that?
Well, I did look at I got a copy of Wesson and Sampson's study, and for the entire area, and this was, what he's addressing is only a little part, was about $6 million for, I think, the entire North Walpole area that has residences that aren't already sewered. One thing I didn't see, because I only got home late this afternoon, is where it would fit within the 20-phased sewer master plan. If this was something that was at the top of the list, then I might be interested in doing that or part of it. If it's if they said, well, it really, when I look at the 20, this fits at around 12 to 15, I'd say, if we're going to use money, there are ARPA for sewer, I'd start looking at the first priority, the second, the third, and you may find that either because of the number and those numbers in the master plan are 2019 numbers, so and that all 20 total to like 75 million at that point. I would look first at, say, the first 5 priorities and say, is there interest and does it fit, with potential ARPA money? So
how does that street number fit as you go up High Street? Is he up by the power lines, or is he?
He's at the end. He's at one of the last houses as you're going on High Street, which starts, close to the center of town, goes up and then heads over to the town line. I think he's either the last house or the second to last house on High Street before you get into the next town, and I think at that point Millbrook comes down.
Okay.
So he's right at that corner.
Have that back, please.
And they're, like I say, Wesson and Sampson, just it was their, I guess, initial thoughts on that. And you can't really see, but there is existing sewer. So there's a part over here, which he's right here, but there's also pieces over there. The total was estimated around $6 point something million to do the whole work.
Mr. Bain can have sewer if he wants. I mean, if he wants to go through the regular channels
Yeah,
and his neighbors want to have sewer, then, if the subcommittee, if we think it should be on the list, and that's, maybe it's a shot we can give him. But as you say, it may not be exactly top priority.
So I guess-
But that doesn't negate that he could do it.
oh yes, he could do that.
Right.
And I guess what I'd be looking at for our suggestion for the ARPA project is there a sewer, and I'm suggesting we might look at the first 5 high priority, and it involves talking to the people who may say, oh, what's it gonna cost me? And when I did some quick figuring on, I think they're the 3rd priority or whatever, you were gonna double their property tax with the abatements. It is very expensive to do a sewer.
It always was.
And someone might say, no, you know, I don't wanna have one of those mounded systems, but it might cost me $30,000. It's there, it's done, as opposed to having for the next 20 years, my property tax bill, you know, when you add the property tax plus the abatements.
Interestingly, that is the correct location you're talking about. There's 2 points of sewer. There's one at the end of High Oaks on Millbrook. It's, I would say, probably 1,500 feet, 1,800 feet from that location, going up Millbrook to High. And then in back of that house, the power lines would be next to him if he's on one of those last houses. In back of that, there's a conservation piece or a town-owned piece of land. And the street in back of that is, what's the name of that street? Well, Wagon Road. There's a sewer stub that was put in for the town in that piece of property in back. He could cost, I guess if town allowed him, he could come cross-country across that vacant lot to High Street.
Well, I think, just looking at the map, I mean, the area of High Street, Coach Road, Ridge Road, and there's 3 roads that go off of that. What is this one? Unfortunately, Something Hill Drive. Those all would come down to Millbrook and
Right.
go in, I think, to the High Oaks pump station. Then you have things like Northwood, Homewood Lane, Buckboard. They would come out down by Sunny Rock. So there's 2 areas, 2 distinct areas that they're looking at.
Yeah. I think that didn't you come up with some data about the failed septics at Coach Road?
Well, what I did on the entire area up in there, I'd asked the Board of Health, and I also did the same for down in like West Pine Drive, down in, that's another area that's rural zone that doesn't have sewer. When they did the master plan, they did everything except for the rural zone, because the idea was that since you had to have 1+ acre zoning, that there was sufficient room for septic systems. And I think the issue is what Mr. Bain is bringing up is that, you know, these homes have been there 30+ years, and those systems are now, you know, in poor condition or are failing. And that's what they were looking at.
I think,
Again,
if anybody's interested in that, I think that's the crux. That's kind of an exploratory thing. The environmentalists, the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, they all want to go green. They want to recharge water. They got all these regulations on this town meeting, Article 18, measuring every drop of storm water and where it's going in. They would prefer septics. Unfortunately, they don't understand that by the way they regulate septics and make them so difficult to install, they become economically unfeasible for the residents, because it would save us a ton of money, and it would save the residents a ton of money if they were more reasonable in the septic standards. When somebody has had a septic system for 20 or 30 years and goes to upgrade it, that they have a reasonable avenue to do that within a wheelhouse of 20 grand or whatever it is, 30,000.
Aren't the septic it's a Title V or
Five.
something that's
It's a state-
it's a state
it's a
thing,
state
it's not,
mandate.
Well, whoever it is, they keep raising
yeah.
the water level, the differences, so that the things be coming higher and higher
Yeah.
up out of the ground. And I mean, see, people don't think outside the box, but Cape, where Patrick is familiar with, they have all kinds of innovative septic systems down there, because they have homes on 4,000 square feet that have septic systems in
We
their
do.
yard.
Where I,
And
down
they
the
have
Cape.
all kinds of creative things that I never heard of, all kinds of high-tech toilets and everything. So, I mean, there are, people don't, they go to Home Depot and then they go to the sewer department and complain, you know, people don't know the options are out there. And they think, because it costs us millions to bring sewer lines to
Yes,
them.
it does.
And it really makes everybody that's involved unhappy. The conservationists are unhappy, the Board of Health's unhappy, you know, it's like, there should be somebody to figure this thing out so that it can work.
And there is a legitimate concern that if you're not putting the water back into the ground, you are sending it out to Boston Harbor. And at some
Okay.
point, and it's many years before you potentially could
Well, it's being treated.
reduce.
Hey, but now the latest thing is, especially down the Cape,
Yeah,
is sealed tanks.
yeah,
Our neighbor just put in a cottage.
yeah.
It's more than a cottage. You know the Taj Mahal? This is what it looks like, this. Anyway, it's right on the ocean. No matter, they can't mount the system, they can't do anything. So what they have is a tight tank. Basically,
And you have to pump it on a regular basis.
they have to pump this thing,
Yeah.
I don't forget, 20,000 gallons or
Yeah.
something underneath the building. And they need to bring in trucks every whatever and
Well-
pump it out.
Well, this
So
is
that's not even
yeah.
getting into the
All
groundwater.
right. This isn't one of my suggestions, but I just wanted, it was on the topic, we did get a letter, and we did get something, you know, just came in the other day that indicates, you know, what the cost is, and, but it might be something to add to the list. I guess the other concern you'd have is, you know, we had 20 phases, and plus whether this is broken down to 1, 2, or whatever phases. Someone would say, wait a minute, you said you could do 1 or 2 phases with the ARPA money. Wait a minute, what about the guy who was next on list and now, you know, isn't going to be able to get it? And there's certainly no way that we could say, all right, we'll spread it over 20 projects of 75 million. You know, you'd hardly get anything done.
Well, it's interesting what you brought up so far, because you brought up the 2 items that you brought up, the hydraulics and the
Redundant water line.
redundant, that's like 2.3 million,
Yeah.
and then you've got the membrane that Patrick brought up is 915, maybe that's not a priority, and then we've got the Morningside Drive, 300,000, it's ready to go. I mean, we almost, with those, you have almost
On the Morningside
half.
Drive, and we'll get to that, because a potential of putting in a substitute motion, which I've got the things, and maybe we can take care of, that'll be on the next.
Yep.
But with the Morningside Drive, if, let's say that the Finance Committee's present position, and they may change it between now and town meeting, we do have High Oaks, and I believe the Ganawati Farm, you might just say, since we only have $36,000 of long-term debt in the sewer, take all 3 of them and borrow it to, but using ARPA money is a possibility, but just another thing
Yeah.
to consider.
Well, we need to give the town administrator, or actually not the town administrator, but the selectmen, some priorities to authorize our projects for the ARPA money.
Well, does anyone else have suggestions? And if not, I would say Scott or Steve, is there something, I'm sure you, Rick, Steve, have been talking, have ideas of things, and if we can come up with a list, I think the sooner we send it, the better.
Well, I think so too. I also like the idea of the water line, and I didn't realize that that included. And, because it does save electricity, and also I like the idea of the billing update.
Okay, we can put.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we need to get some consensus here,
Well,
and that's why he's suggesting some type of subcommittee that could come out with something that we can all grab it.
and I'm offering an alternative to a subcommittee. If it turns out Scott says this, and this in here, and we say, I mean, there's no sense in sending a list of 15 things. That ain't happening. You want to, if we can come up with 3, 4, 5 that we can
Well-
agree here, then I say let's do it. So I'd be interested to see what Scott has to say now, and if it's, too fuzzy for us, then let's go the subcommittee route. If
Well,
it's not,
I
then
think the chairman figured that the subcommittee would interview him. But if you
I
want
would
to do
like
it
to
in an
hear-
open meeting, then that's fine too.
I'd like to
Dr.
hear
Scott,
it
you
now.
want to talk about it now, or you want to talk about it later?
So, you do have a list, and it's on the memo that the town administrator provided. That's the list that Jim, Rick, and I and Steve had worked on. It's a prioritized list, but it's also something that the commission can rearrange the priorities if they feel there's something that they want to see, which is what you're discussing now. There does seem to be some overlap, like the raw water line. So if you feel you can come up with a decision now, if it's not too fuzzy, for what you want to do, we can do that. Or,
I think my suggestion is that most of us agree with the water one to the flushing the first one on the water. So we can at least take that say and that let's start with that.
Okay. And do we agree that maybe we say, here's the 2 priorities, the redundant water line and the hydraulic cleaning, that at this point, and that we want to have a subcommittee or whatever, meet with Rick and whatever, Scott and Steve, to append to that list. I think it would be nice if we got something to the selectmen. They've been asking, or at least the town administrator has been asking, that we say, all right, we've got 2 at this point, and we're going through the remaining list.
Why don't you and Pradeep be a subcommittee?
I guess I've looked at the list, and maybe the Willis membranes are the only thing that I've looked at. Those are the only ones that I have been talking to Rick, and also, I'm as far along, but I think it would be better somebody who, hadn't put some extra, and Pradeep, you're interested in
No,
filling.
so there's one water main replacement which is like $2.1 million.
We're doing the June Street and his Rhodes Ave and whatever, it's, I think, 2.8 million.
And the reason for replacement is because it's old.
right, it's online cast iron.
Okay, which is fine. The thing is that by default, no one is going to ask, about ARPA and all, because that by default ARPA is for. So we should prioritize that more than,
So are you recommending to use Apple money to reduce the current project?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
The
So
one that's, we've already appropriated the money.
Right.
which is fine,
Yeah.
because what you do is that like what you're not spent,
Okay.
you can use those
What are
money.
the prices on these 2 things?
It's $2.1 million.
I think I have what we appropriated, it's either 2.3 or 2.8.
I thought it was 2.8.
Yeah, I got it right here. Oh, article, no, that wasn't.
I do as well.
Yeah, I think 2.8 was the one that
It's
the design is currently, you got it?
2.8, yeah, that's right, 2.8 million.
2.8 for the occluded line?
No, this is what were the streets? I know June, I always think of June.
Yeah, it's just
Pilgrim Way.
Pilgrim Way, Road.
Is this the redundancy?
No, this is a regular cast iron, old, unlined
Yeah.
cast iron. We were doing a series of these up until COVID hit, and then we stopped, and now we've got it up.
Right, so these are 6-inch unlined cast water
Okay.
mains. It's June Street, Rhodes Ave, Pilgrim Way, South Street, Peach Street, and Water
And these are
Street.
being pigged,
No, these are being replaced.
replaced?
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanna add
And
that
now,
one?
can I ask you a question? Scott, why did they pick those lines instead of those streets that have asbestos pipes in them?
Because the asbestos, as long as you don't touch it and leave it alone, it's not, I prioritize us to get rid of it.
But you understand the asbestos are always a hair's breadth away from breaking.
Right. We're having water quality issues in the system right now, especially on Pilgrim Way. Flushing hydrants to try to clear it up, keep the water flowing, and keep it clean.
And why is there a problem? Are these
It's
on,
unlined cast iron. It's about 70 years old, it's deteriorating over time.
and the project is going to recast, to put a cement,
Replace it with lined
you're
ductile
gonna
iron.
replace it and not
Replace with ductile iron cement line.
how come they're not gonna put in a coating inside, like they do sometimes? Huh?
Because it's cast iron.
They can't do
The water
that?
main that's in there right now is cast iron,
And you're gonna replace it with ductile iron?
yes.
And it's not a smooth thing, and if you,
I
if you
understand.
take that off, you're liable
He
to
just
break it
told me.
anyways.
You just told me my answer.
Yeah,
I got it.
you really can't.
Okay, and that comes to how much?
2.8 million that's already been appropriated by would have been the fall town meeting, because that's when we do, that was also the skater Phase 2.
And that's our first priority?
That should be one of the top priority, because by default
Is it the
that.
first priority? I thought
That's-
first
that-
was the hydraulic
First was the
cleaning.
hydraulic cleaning of
How
raw
much is
water
the
transport.
hydraulic cleaning?
1.1 million.
1.1 million. So we're looking for 3.9 million, right?
All right, so we want to add that, so we have raw water, redundant water line, and now that June, the 2.8 existing project.
Okay, when you prioritize those, how are we gonna do it?
I would say since we've already got the money allocated for the June's Pilgrim Way, whatever, I'd go with the raw water line. It affects, it's, everything, because.
Okay, so that'll be number one.
And then I'd go with the redundant line, and then the existing cast iron replacement.
Then cast iron.
You want to put the Willis membranes on?
Well, we can throw them on the, he said they're not vital to have them done now.
I
And,
guess, my thought was.
We can put it on, it's 900,000.
Yeah, it's probably over $1 million now, but, my thought is if it was like it's 5 or 7 years from now, then I wouldn't put it on a list. If it's within 2 or 3, then I'd say, hey, put it on and we'll spend that money at the end of the ARPA period, because I know they don't expect you to do everything within 1 year, and I believe there's a 2 or 3 year period that you're supposed to spend this money. And so if it's gonna fail or in 4 years, I'd say do it before.
Is it the consensus of this board that we have 4 items to put on to the selectmen?
And what are the 4?
And they are the raw water
Right,
line,
the redundant line.
redundancy, the
Yeah.
cast iron replacement with ductile iron,
Yeah,
and the membranes.
membranes.
Is that,
No, I'm okay with it.
do we have that as something we
Yes.
can present to the selectmen?
Why don't you make that a motion?
Well, I figure you would.
I'll make that as a motion then. Those 4 items.
All right, you second it.
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have it's moved in the second for the, to respond to the Board of Selectmen and Administration with the 4 projects that just been articulated in their priority that was presented by Bill. Second?
Second. Well, I think I made it. Patrick
Seconded, okay.
seconded it.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 4-0.
Okay.
Okay, we got that out of the way.
All right,
Now,
that's done.
Finance Committee, motion votes taken at Articles 7 and 9. This is like the,
Well, can I,
Winding
Mr.
road.
Chairman, can I just make a statement? I'm very confused about this being taken off and no action put on, and the wording changed, and there's a bunch of little tiny things that these
There's 4
make me
articles.
nervous about because they're
Two
different.
of the articles, there's 2 for water and 2 for sewer. 2 of the articles are for the current fiscal year budget, that when the warrant was there, you weren't sure we were going to have enough revenue to cover the budget. In both cases, for sewer and water, it's going for, no action is going to be the FinCom's motion, because as we've gotten close to the end of the fiscal year, we feel very confident that we are not going to need additional funds beyond what we appropriated last spring.
How do they know that?
I can tell you, once a month, they give you a thing of the production and the revenue. You look at where we are, and one of it's the percentage, but you can then look and say, all right, and at the time when I was talking to the accountant, particularly on water, I said, all right, we're 9 months in, we've got 3, and here's the amount that we're short, for the full year. Divide it by the remaining 3 months, and I think it was gonna be like 200,000. I said, you've got 9 months where we have exceeded 200,000 by 50% at least. And Jody said, you're right, there's no reason for that. Sewer is a closer case, but again, you put it, and it makes sense.
Why was that ever put on in the first place?
Because when the warrant opens back in January, it makes sense to do it. And I think you probably want to put it on every
We were in
year.
COVID.
Yeah.
There was a lot of uncertainty, and basically, it's like a little insurance policy. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't bother anybody.
Yeah.
It's just the option. If we were short or there was a crisis, we have the ability to act.
So,
By taking these away, we don't. If something does happen, if the current president gets in a war or something happens and the thing blows up and we don't have the money, we're up the creek. We're gonna have to go get a town meeting to meet again and go through a big scenario. So I don't see why they took the 2 little insurance policies away, because they're null and void. If we get the revenue, it's just a fail-safes type of situation.
You would need to put, all right, how much money do you want? And then we've had to, in the past, to specify, all right, we believe we're going to be X dollars short, and at this point, what would you say in that article? You can't just have an article that says, we'll transfer funds from retained earnings to the existing budget.
It's $200,000 in each one. We already have it.
Well, that's
It's
what,
in our
that's
estimates.
not what the main motion is at this point. Remember, those were done back in January, when you had half of a year to go. But right now, there is the main motion, which is the Finance Committee, and town meeting always at the very beginnings makes it the main motion, it's for no action, and that's why it's on the consent agenda at this point. And I saw your memo that you wanted it off. Fine. In the end, it's gonna be no action.
my thing is, everyone is saying that there's no action, and the next statement they're making is that you are using retained earning. So either they have to be, careful about their statement, or they are trying to mislead us and the public, saying that we are using retained earning.
I don't think it was a matter of misleading, Peter, but I think at the time, that Article 6 and 8, they were voted no action to give the Sewer and Water Commission more time to investigate what they were gonna do going forward. Like, John, you were at the same
No,
meeting.
but the memo which is coming up with each email, or even the Dan's email today, it says the Article 5 and 7, the budget item, that retained earning is the problem. But Article 6 and 8, we are not doing any action because there's no need of retained earning. So where is this statement coming up, another memo coming up about the retained earning? So my problem is with that. Either you say that,
You're right.
either you say that there's no problem with retained earning, or you say that there's a problem with retained earning and 6 and 8 needs to be considered. That's my point.
Yeah.
My point is not that, okay, I know that the revenues are high, we are getting it almost cross $10 million. It's still 2 months to go. We'll be hitting 12. But every meeting we are going, everywhere, we have been told that we are using retained earning. We are using retained earning.
No, you're right.
Which is not true.
It's a political tactic, unfortunately. I don't know
Yeah,
why
so-
it's being done, but they're trying to embarrass the Sewer and Water Commission.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
they're trying to make that we are not responsible with the funds. And that statement's been made by the FinCom in front of myself, and I was at the meeting with Scott and Bill.
Mr. Chairman, Article 6, do we want to do anything or not? The FinCom motion is for no action. And on 6 and 8.
8, that's
If we're-
correct.
If we're saying we want to do something, then you're going to have to put a dollar amount that you want to take out of retained earnings to address fiscal year '22. I don't know, I can tell you it's going to vote down because everyone's going, why are you taking money out to fit something you don't need? So I
No,
think you
that's
just
not
leave-
what this, what is being said is, we've had $200,000 sitting in escrow, untouched, for retained earnings, and we're saying we don't need to use the retained earnings, and at the same time, they're saying we have used retained earnings and we've depleted the capital account for use in capital projects, which is totally untrue. We've actually have, and if the town would stop saying that there's only, for example, in water, there's only 1.4 million of retained earnings, actually, there's 200,000 sitting there in retained earnings that's been blocked, and there's 220,000 legal potential funds that aren't gonna be used for legal, blocked. That's 400,000, so really, the retained earnings is almost 1.9 million. But they're making statements it's frustrating for us because they're not true.
Mr.
So I understand what
Chairman?
Pradeep said. I think somehow we have to clarify the record. Maybe we'll send a letter to the FinCom and educate them to the facts of the budget.
Here's the thing. The FinCom and the motion right now, that will go before town meeting on Saturday is for no action. Do we wish to do something other than no action? I have the form
Right.
here, we've got people,
I
if
have
you
the
want to
form as
do it.
well. Yeah.
If you want to sign it, I think that it's,
No, I think it's a.
and I think we have to do
I'm not
something
looking to
on,
stir the pot, we're just clearing the air
All right.
for the audience, is that we have had contingencies for all outcomes, and it was a pandemic, and we're doing the right thing for the consumers who are out of work, people were shut down, and we're trying to keep reasonable rates at the same time.
Well, Mr.
So-
Chairman, this whole thing was precipitated by the town administration putting forth a 18% increase for water and sewer. I mean, this is why we're at this point now, going through all this rigmarole, really. It was untenable, and really, I don't understand why they would have suggested, 18% increase in water and sewer rates. And that has gotten us to, maybe it was a good thing, because we've looked at the budget very carefully now and
there's
come
one
out
thing
with a
when
different
that
scenario.
18% was, and I forget what the sewer was come up with, is you looked at, here's what the expenses were being proposed, and with the water only, here's what you were going to need to cover that,
Okay,
without
so-
any retained earnings.
No, let
What
me
we
say
did-
something now.
what
You
we did, though-
agree with that,
no, what
right?
we-
You agree that we should have had 18% increase?
No.
Oh, you didn't.
Preliminarily, when we put down the article, I said, this is what it looks like if we go. And we would still have to have a fairly substantial increase in the rates, and except for now, we're charging 100 hydrants, 1,250, that are the reason that you could come down to what we were proposed with and voted 0.05 and 9.9% and these other items.
Town administration should have thought of that of their own before they put out an outrageous number called 18%. No,
So-
and you wouldn't have voted for 18%
No,
anyway.
and when I told them, this is what it's looking like, and I said, that isn't going to happen. You know it, I know it, and they said,
Then why
yeah.
did they do it?
I don't know.
That's the
Yeah.
answer.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, right now, you know what the FinCom's motion for Article 7 is. That's the water for FY '23. And it's everything they took, we would, had voted 3-2 for 0%, that's Tier 1, Tier 2, 5% on 3, and 9.9. Now, there isn't a rate hearing, but with that as sort of the guideline and charging for hydrants on whatever, the FinCom said, no, not 161,000 and change of retained earnings. They said, go to 80. we can do that. You can't go with those rates that we did. I've done it up and looked to see, all right, it would take 2.5, and some others, and figured out what would that mean. What I've done is written up, if we want to go and say, no, Finance Committee, we are offering a substitute motion, and we have to have it in Dan Bruce, the moderator's hands, by 10 o'clock, and I will do that. I've written up what we voted, which is what Jim had there, which lists the expenses, which that wasn't an issue, the user fees, showing that we were going to use $161,679 for retained earnings. If we wish to go that, I've listed myself as the submitter, and we would need a second.
Well, can I just ask you a
yeah,
question here?
Right.
Okay, we're gonna set the rates,
Yes, we are.
and the rates are going to be less than 18%.
That's fine, yes.
A lot less.
Right.
All right. But are they putting the horse before the cart? Because if our rates are, if we need to use retained earnings after our rates are set, we'll use them.
Yeah, and we would have in the fall town meeting.
So why is this
in the
finance
fall
committee
ta-
trying to
well,
second guess us
well, no,
about the rates for the
Pat,
people who use
if we
water
don't
and
vote,
sewer?
Article 7 is how Scott and Steve are gonna get paid starting July 1st. So it is a article that said, we are going to appropriate, blah, blah, and it says so much for personal expenses, debt, and whatever. And that, the sum of will be raised from, and that's where we have the difference. If we say no, if you vote for it, Scott, you don't have a job. You
Yes,
can
he
work for
does.
free, we're happy to have you.
All right.
I have a thing. The thing which you people voted 3-2,
Yeah.
the budget has the retained earning of 161K,
Yeah,
which was reduced by Finance Committee by 80,000.
81,000, they brought it down to 80.
So I'm like, that is a better option for us because they're reducing the
That's
retained
his
earning.
option, to do
Okay.
it the full. You want to do the,
So you're leaving,
You
go
want-
with the finance committees?
No, what
this
they're
is with the
saying is
Finance
that
Committee.
don't raise more retained earning. That's what they're saying, Don't raise more retained earning, but you raise more user revenue and spend it.
well, there's
What is it,
there's two other things there. We voted not to increase the indirect cost,
Okay,
and they left it in.
right.
I rounded that to 40,000, it's actually 65, but if we could take 40,000 out of the indirect cost and then have everything else the same as the FinCon motion. The other thing though, Bill.
Can I just ask, so you're saying we would have a substitute motion for Article 5? Because that's where you're gonna change the indirect cost.
No.
Yes, that's where you're gonna change.
All right, well,
If
that
you
may
wanna
be,
change
that
the
may be
indirect-
water over the dam, we may not be able to make that point.
No.
But there's a better point to be made here, is that the way these articles have been written up to the last FinCom go-around is different than it is in the document that was sent us. They changed the language. They said here, it is moved and seconded that the following sum be appropriated to the water, let me see,
Water
and sewer
enterprise.
enterprise fund and expanded under the direction of the Department of Public Works. That phrase has been added. It previously said funds and expected under appropriated to the water enterprise fund and expended for the purposes of operating the water department in fiscal '23. They've added the phrase under the direction of the Department of Public Works. That was never been in there
Scratch
before.
that.
All right, so you
So-
would take out, after the word fund, you would take out the word "and expended under the direction of the Department of Public Works." You'd get that out, so it would read.
Expended, I start with under the, well, I'll show it to you here, it's written, I've got it written. If you want to do the.
Well, you would say appropriated to the fund for the purpose of operating the water department. Your
That's-
your
yeah.
objection is saying under the
Direction
direction
of.
of.
Yeah.
That's,
So you want to strike that?
well, that's not even legal, because all those monies are
Okay.
undirected on,
So,
Yeah, I'm just
I mean,
pointing
you're
that out.
doing exactly what I just said. No, you're saying, and expended, the following sums be appropriated to water and enterprise fund, and expended, oh,
See,
okay,
that-
all right,
I
I'll leave
just-
that, under the direction, okay, expended for the purpose, okay. And those numbers are the same.
Okay.
And now you're saying retained earnings of 80.
What were you having?
Well, I thought that we might,
Go back to 161?
161. I mean, if
I
you
like
want to go with 80,
160, no, I
that's...
like 161 because that gives us the flexibility. I think people have to understand,
All
that
right.
doesn't mean we're spending the money. That means we have the flexibility of not having another town meeting if something goes wrong. That's like in substitute for them
Okay.
getting rid of Article 6.
No, so, which is true, like, we need retained earnings, more retained earning, because it's a weather policy. It, gas, electricity and water, their revenue depends upon the weather. We can't just have the, one fixed charges for the user without knowing the weather. It's not, we can't predict the weather. We can't predict the water bill.
So this is the, okay.
It's
So
the
I'm-
same thing you have.
That's fine. So you're operating, you've got a second, so I can get it to John, to Dan, I can scan it in and send him a copy that this is the,
But this is 80. This is not.
no, that's fine. I'm going with yours. You want to go with the 80?
I want to go with the 161.
Well, then we've got this, which is everything except for, you had to increase that number, this number, because you only got 80. It basically is you took the 80 out of, or 81 out of that, and you put it up here, and you
Yeah.
changed that down to 80.
That's what he's doing, basically.
So, well, you're submitting it, and Pat's seconding
No,
it.
what I was trying to do was keep it consistent with what happened at their meeting, so they understand. He reduced it to 80, we want to keep it to 165, but that other language there shouldn't
Alright,
be in there.
so-
You can use yours.
All right, so if this is the way, going with the 161, I'll make
You
a
want to go
motion.
from 161 or 80 on the retained earnings?
well, not sure.
Well,
Do you think we should go with the higher?
No, so we should first teach them, why 161 is there, and they just removed it and made it 81,
This
That's-
came from the town administrator to us. We
Yeah.
didn't make it up.
I know.
So
that's why I'm interested
That's
in-
my thing, the overall, the top figure is not changing, so it does not matter. The
Right,
4 points,
doesn't
it does not
matter.
matter.
It's just that-
So
Whether-
should we just forget about it?
if you forget about it, then the motion,
Then we use the other form,
then
because
we would use
you go
this.
to back to 80, but then,
No, we would use this one here, because those are
that's for
the,
sewer, though.
yeah, this one here, because this is the,
That's
no,
sewer,
that's
too.
sewer.
These are both sewer.
Oh, I have it. No wonder I can't find it. It's in my hand. But go with that. And that's with the exception of, changing under the direction, and I don't know what the
Yeah.
finance committee, whether it says that, I was copying what.
Yeah,
the
I
town
don't like the
administrator.
idea that they're starting
Alright.
to put in,
Well, then I would say,
Direction from
You can
then,
take this one then.
all right, well, there is not gonna be any, it's the FinCom's motion. We don't
Well,
have.
no, the language has to be changed.
All right,
It isn't
I'll make
there.
a motion, I'll tell them that this is what we expect the FinCom voted as their motion, with the exception of the language. And,
which they really don't have any authority to put in.
well, they can put it, it's their committee, they can put, just like we could have put it in, whatever. So, okay, I will send this, if we take, I'll make a motion that the version,
So you know what we're doing, instead of 161, we're going along with the 80 they
Right.
proposed.
And you think that's wise?
Well, Bill thinks that we have
We
enough
we
revenue.
have to tell them, but we have to tell them in the meeting, what they're doing is wrong,
Yeah, their chairman admitted to me, he says, that substitute motion they made is doing the opposite of what they said they wanted us to do.
but it's
That's-
not, it isn't a substitute motion at that. They were voting, they had no motion, and then they changed. Jim presented the 161 as his what this board said, well, okay, 3-2, we'll go with that. They said, you know what, we want to use less retained earnings. And they brought it down to 80.
But
That's
that,
all.
but we want to use less retained earning for expenses, but what they're saying is that raise less retained earning, which does not make sense.
See,
right.
when we get to the rate hearing, I'm gonna make a difference.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a
That's what I'm
motion,
saying,
I will make a
come out.
You might wanna
motion
leave the
that,
161, I mean, that's.
so it's all moot because when we do the rates, that's what the rates are gonna be.
yes,
Now, how that works out
right.
is gonna be problematic maybe, but you said it's not gonna be problematic with the 80 or the 160, right?
No, the rate, setting the rates, we're not setting the rates.
I
They're
know,
just saying,
no, I'm
here's
not
the
saying we're setting the
here's what-
rates.
Here's
I'm
the money
saying
we
that
want to run the water department, and here's how we're proposing to pay for it.
Here's the way to look at it. They said, and as a generic thing, the town administrator said, you guys have been using 200,000 to support the rates in the
Right.
past. Now, this year, we want you to go to like 100,000, and then maybe in the next year, go down a little bit more. So, like you're progressively weaning, like a drug addict, you're weaning yourself off of the
Using
retained earnings
right.
to support the water rate. That's in their mind. I don't agree with any of it, but that's the way they're thinking.
Right.
So that's, half of 200 is 100, the guy proposed 80. I'm happy with either one, however if you want to do the 161 that the town administrator gave to us and stick with that and have more flexibility in the rate hearing, you can, or if you want to go with the 80, if Bill says we're going to hit the revenue mark, then there shouldn't be any problem.
The ARPA funds, when they have worked into this scenario,
The sewer.
right, does that mean that since we're gonna, hopefully we'll get some funds, so do we need as much retained earnings? And if we go with 80,
All right,
does that make us more dependent on the ARPA funds?
Pat, can we hold
Just
that
answer my
for the
question,
sewer?
so I can understand this.
Anything that was mentioned about ARPA was sewer. Let's just set with what we're gonna do on the, and we have two proposals. One is to leave it at the 161, which is what this board voted, or we can go with the, reducing the 161 retained earnings to 80, which the finance committee, in which case, other than, and I don't even know what their motion, whether that's gonna say under the direction
Okay,
of.
if we say 161, what is
Did you
our
float your
rationale
idea
for
with
that?
anybody with that 161? Did you float that?
No, we brought it up, that was what we brought at the finance committee, what was it, last Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, that was what was presented, and then one of the, I think the vice chair of the finance committee had a substitute motion to lower it to 80, and that went, I don't know, was it 12-0-0 or whatever, I mean, it was clearly.
How do we defend 161?
Well, we don't, the town administrator does.
Well,
No, he's not gonna defend it?
No, the 161, because based on that, we could work the rates to be 0% at tier 1, 0% at tier 2, 5% at tier 3, and 9.9 at tier 4. Not committing it to that rates, but, that's, if you were to go with that or something very
Yeah,
close
yeah,
to
yeah,
it,
user
you were
fees.
gonna need 161.
All right, and let's say we go with 80, and we still have those rates. What's gonna
then
You're gonna
happen?
need user fees, or you're gonna need another revenue source, most.
Well, either that or you hope that you spend more,
People buy more
Three
water.
You hope more
three
people-
extra days of sun,
I think
3
we should
extra
stay
days of
with the
sun.
161.
all right.
Yeah, per day is like
I think
$30,000.
you got 3 votes for 161.
All right, I make a motion that we put a substitute motion in, and it's Article 7, the FY '23 Water Enterprise Fund appropriation is the subject. It is moved and seconded that the following sums be appropriated to the Water Enterprise Fund, expended for the purpose of operating the water department in fiscal year 2023. And the numbers are the same in terms of the personnel expenses, debt service, and the sum of 4.7 million, blah, 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 will be raised as follows, and it's 3.8 user fees. Retained earnings, which is the only thing we've been discussing, is 161,679, and miscellaneous was 696,000. So that's our motion, and do you want to submit that as yours, and Pat, you as the second, since, well, I guess there's a difference, either that.
You don't have a second on yours? It's made up by you?
Well, I'm making this
Yeah, well,
motion that I
I'll-
just read.
You put me down as the second.
All right, so, seconded by, okay. And I will sign it as the petitioner? All right. Okay, and I will,
And if there's a discussion about the
Well, they're
cross
gonna
out at
say,
the top,
No,
they're
we-
gonna say,
we
how
want
did
the
the
discussion.
commission vote on
We want the
that?
discussion.
well,
We want to
I've just made a motion,
tell them,
so
what their
what was
views
the, did we have a second on that?
yeah,
Okay, I made the motion,
I
you
second.
seconded it. Mr. Chairman, do we want to vote?
yeah, let's take a vote here.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, okay, the water, all right, so Articles 6 and 8, we're doing nothing. Article 7, which is what we just discussed, 400.
Article 6 and 8, from my point of view, we have to open it for discussion because of the memos.
Well, I
which are-
think, John, you wanted it to be not on the consent agenda, and you can just bring it
Yeah,
up.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
so
what I'm
we're
saying.
not
Yeah.
taking a,
Yeah.
you know, there isn't.
Not-
a-
not-
We can
the
talk
boards.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
The second item is Article 9, all right, which is the sewer. And this is one that, if we wanted to go back with our motion, the sums were 4.2 million from user fees, 296,500 basically on the Morningside Drive pump station. We've done the design, we haven't done the construction, we're gonna hold the construction off, either look at ARPA funds or an alternative.
Well, don't
is
say it
to-
like that. We can't do the construction because it isn't ready. The plans aren't ready.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we would say, it's, you know, we have spent some money, we haven't spent it, we're going to
Project isn't ready.
push it off
So this proposed rate increase would be 7.5.
7.5%, and
Okay,
I'll
that-
tell you,
But they're not voting on that. We're gonna do that
No.
at your rate hearing.
I know that, right.
yeah, so it was, so if we want to go with ours, we're going to propose using what's available from the Morningside pump station, which was the 296,500, plus $3,459, and that's from the portable generator, that's left over, it's done. FinCom left that in. Retained earnings of 24,746. The FinCom motion removed that, and the miscellaneous receipts of 567,500. So that was what we originally, so what do
I
you
did
got
the same
here?
thing, but that's, you know, that's what you did, the same, it's the same motion. basically.
Okay,
And, yeah, I think
and
that, but
so you would take out
just that language
that
again.
language, which is after the fund expended, and then under the direction of the Department of Public Works, okay.
The reason, part of the reason for that is our designated agent. I mean, we've been thinking it's Mr. Johnson, but I
That's what it
don't
is.
know if they're, well, I have to look at the agreement, because I don't know if the protocol really is that Scott is the person that we authorize to execute these things, or whether it is,
Well, he's
town
water and
administrator.
sewer, he's not public works.
oh, I know he's not.
Oh,
No, he's saying that
We're not Public Works either.
no.
Well, the
We'll
water
volunteers.
department is, under, like engineering, is
Well,
under
it's an
the,
organization chart, yeah.
but technically, or I saw the, you know, the state definition of water superintendent. It's totally independent of DPW superintendent. Legally, those are two different positions. So he should be able to do everything, whatever we are talking about.
Yeah, but there's also the town charter.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll lose his license, that's what they do to him.
all right, Mr. Chairman, John, I'll make a motion that we go with our original suggestion on how to fund the sewer and water, which is user fees, the Morningside Drive monies that have not been spent, the portable generator that's left over, because that's done, and miscellaneous receipts. So that's my motion.
Okay, anybody second that?
Yeah. Okay, Pat seconded it.
Discussion?
All those in favor?
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.
Okay, so 4-0, and John, I've got it listed as I'm making the, I'm submitting the motion that you seconded, and I'll sign it as the petitioner.
And you can do the presentation.
I'll speak, and you can, anybody can add in.
Now, will you take those to the town clerk before 9 o'clock, or will you?
I have to get them to the moderator. So what I have is the email address.
Okay.
I will
Scan them?
I will skip that in, scan it, send it off, and if you
Can you
want,
CC us? Yeah. okay.
I'll send it to all of us.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Yeah, that way we'll all have evidence that was submitted on time.
Yes.
Which I can't believe he's doing that. I mean, what if somebody doesn't have a
I
scanner,
know.
doesn't know where he lives? How are they gonna get
Well,
there?
either that, or let's say, we present this and somebody says, well, no, wait a minute, I think 172,000, and I want to make a substitute motion. Is there a second? Someone raises their hand. I don't like us doing out, but, I know why we did it, and we may end up being indoors anyways, because I think it's potentially gonna rain. All right,
So that's
and I think that may be it. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, there aren't any other warrant articles. You said something about Article 5, but,
Well, no, if you wanted to change, that's the
Yeah.
entire budget.
Yeah, no.
You could talk to yourself blue, that didn't change it.
yeah. So I think we've covered it all. Anybody have any other business this time?
Move
Good.
to adjourn.
Okay.
If I just could, yes, I'm ready to second. Just that, I know John's not here, but to do a rate hearing, if you want to do it in June,
I'd like to do it in the beginning of June.
well, then you need 2 weeks' notice. It's not like a regular meeting. That's the only thing I just want us to be aware of.
What's the first meeting in June? What's the first?
I don't know, it's the second
Monday.
second Monday.
Do we have a calendar?
Steve's right on this here.
June 6th is the first Monday, June 20th is the second Monday.
So-
Third Monday, sorry.
June
No,
what?
we need the second.
13th.
13th.
Okay, June
Okay, so you
13th
want
will
to
be the
do a
rate
motion
hearing.
on that to?
Can we get that?
No, I mean, we can have another meeting between now. I don't know what our plans are. I mean, if we wanted it to be the 19th of May, if you want to have another meeting,
Yeah.
for the purposes of,
Maybe we should.
yeah.
All right, so we'll have a meeting the 19th of May.
And the rate
And
hearing
then
will be
and we'll be
13th.
able to establish, take a vote for the rate hearing at that
Right.
time?
And at that point, we'll also know,
Right.
did the,
How'd it go?
yeah, how'd it go on the, the town meeting? So, okay, I will second Pat's motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
I'm being attacked
Moved
by
and seconded. All in
bugs here.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.